Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Cool. Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Alright, we got some good stuff today. I really gotta get used to not saying Google Podcasts, because that's not really a thing anymore. Therefore, on my podcast, but, made a mistake yesterday. Actually, I didn't really make a mistake. The podcast I made yesterday, for whatever reason, didn't upload. So I guess I'm posting 2 podcasts today. Not really planned, but deal with it. So, Bronny James finally had a productive game in the Summer League for literally the first time since he entered the NBA. And listen, I don't think Bronny's a fantastic player, right? I think everyone knows that for now. So what do I make of him? Well, he averaged like 5 points a game in college, so it's going to take a while for him to adjust to the NBA. I disagree with the people that say he didn't deserve to even get drafted because, in all honesty, he was drafted where he belongs, right? He was right in the area. Like, the other people drafted behind him are in the G League right now, which is about where Bronny's skill level is at, right? Like, Bronny's probably going to be a G League player until, like, at minimum for the rest of this year. Possibly, likely, even into next year. Right? There's no reason to get worked up over him getting picked late second round as a bottom 10 pick of the draft. I think people they're acting like he was drafted in the first round, which, in that case, yes, it would be ridiculous. But he's drafted back with all these G League players. It's not a big deal whatsoever. Now, I think people like me and other podcasters see more potential in him because of who his father is, partly. And partly because he is talented. He is very athletic. Right? He is built. He has some of the intangibles of an NBA player. He's a smart guy, but he's shown incredible limitations offensively. And at best, he's shown to be average at defense. From what we've seen so far, right? He can definitely develop into a better shooter. There's plenty of players that started off as poor shooters that turned out just fine. Even though the three-point shot is very popular today. Listen, LeBron James dominated the league for a while without a great three-point shot. And Kevin Durant, he's a better three-point shooter than LeBron is, but not by much. Kobe was at the top of the league for a while. He didn't have a three-point shot. Tim Duncan. And there's also players that have developed a better shot. LeBron is a lot better a three-point shooter right now than he was when he started out his rookie year. He was a horrible shooter. So he can learn how to shoot better. He can become a better offensive player, become a better defender. But what's going to limit his career is the fact that he's 6'1", which is point guard height. He's not tall enough to be moved into the shooting guard position. So, if the Lakers aren't comfortable with him bringing the ball up and running point, his career is going to be very limited. So what's going to limit his career is that he's a 6'1" player who really has never been a point guard. Even in his high school days, he wasn't running point. And that's when he was a top offensive player in his high school and a top defender in his high school. Now he's in the NBA and he's at the bottom of the league in, offensive production and, like I said, at best average defensive-wise. And, as I said before, this is all based off of just a few games we've seen from him, but when you average 5 points a game in college, it's hard for people to come out and say, "Oh, I believe you can transition into an NBA star." So, main takeaway from Bronny: he's athletic, he's smart. Average defender can maybe improve that a little bit, but right now he's proven to be very limited. All right, so yesterday, let's shift to the NFL. Caleb Williams signed a 4-year rookie deal. I think we all saw that coming. He was, I think, one of the last rookies to sign a deal from the draft. My opinion hasn't really shifted much. I still think the Bears are the 4th best in the division because, they're in a division with the Lions, who I see as a Super Bowl contender. The Packers, who I think are a playoff team, but probably a second-round exit if I had to guess. Though it would be nice to see them beat the 49ers finally. And then I think the Vikings have a slight edge on them right now. Assuming J.J. McCarthy makes the most of having Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison with him. So I think that the Vikings have a slightly better roster, receiving core, better weapons, but the Bears do show a lot of promise, and I do like Caleb Williams. I think he's talented. So we'll see how they do. I think they're destined for 4th in the division, but they can easily prove me wrong. All right. So Terron Armstead, a few weeks after Tyreek Hill defended Tua, or not really defended him, I guess, more endorsed Tua getting a contract. Terron Armstead said that the Tua contract will happen, and also that they need him to go where they want to go. And listen, I feel like my opinions haven't changed much, and I keep talking about similar things. Like it's getting really redundant, but I told you guys. Unfortunately, since it's not a TV show, I can't show you the graphic. But if you need a refresher, I can tell you how the Dolphins have fared the last 2 seasons, including the playoffs, with Tua and without him. With Tua, the last 2 seasons, they're 19-12. They have 55 touch. Hold on. With Tua, they're 19-12. Without him, they're 1-4. All right, and other quarterbacks on the Dolphins have thrown 55% completion percentage compared to Tua's 66. 6 touchdowns and 9 picks compared to Tua's 55 touchdowns, 23 picks, and most notably, 66 quarterback rating to a 101 quarterback rating from Tua. So Tua is a significantly better quarterback than the Dolphins are going to find. And not only that, it seems that Tua is what works for the Dolphins. Not every team needs Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Not every team needs an excellent quarterback to succeed. They just need to find the right guy for their team. And Tua is the right guy for Miami. That being said, he shouldn't be getting paid like Trevor Lawrence did. Trevor Lawrence was ridiculous. He did not deserve that kind of money. And unfortunately now, with that contract, that gives Tua a lot of leverage because he could say, well, I've done more than Trevor Lawrence. I've gotten to the playoffs. I've been in the league much longer. I've done a lot more for this team than Trevor Lawrence has for the Jags. And he can negotiate his way to getting a crazy contract, but I don't think, number one, I don't think he'll do that. And number two, I don't think the Dolphins are going to be willing to give him that because they're going to have to pay Tyreek Hill too because they're not. I think Tua is good, but he's not the same without Tyreek Hill. I think the Dolphins are looking at a deep playoff run with this roster right now, and they don't want to change they don't want to ruin that or jeopardize that by paying one guy too much. We saw what happened with Dallas when they paid Dak too much. They're currently at a position where we can always expect them, always count on them to get bounced in the first round. So Tua, he'll get paid, but I don't think he's getting paid Trevor Lawrence or Jalen Hurts money. All right. Let's shift back to basketball. Team USA, Steph dropped 24 yesterday against Serbia to improve Team USA's record to 3-0 in these Olympics. Listen, this team, we all know this team's going to be very dominant. What I like about the Olympic basketball that we don't see in the regular season of the NBA is players, everybody is invested in it, you know? Like, yeah, in the playoffs, you get that too, but, like, in the regular season, from October all the way to April, you know, you get, players are invested early to mid-season, but once teams start to kind of get to the point where they can clinch playoff spots, they start to kind of taper off in effort, right? Like, they start to sit players, you know, the star players for each team, they're not playing, and, you know, it gets a little boring. That's why the ratings are kind of going down. And yeah, the postseason brings a little more excitement, but by that point, a lot of fans are checked out. You know, for these Olympics, you know, you get the best of the best. You get everyone invested in it. No one's looking to take rest because there's not going to be any reason to. And it seems all these players are healthy, which is great, you know, because, I mean, the only semi-issue was Kawhi Leonard dropped out, but, you know, that's not a big deal when you have Curry, LeBron, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, you know, all these guys. You don't really... Kawhi Leonard's great. It would be fantastic to have, but he's not a necessity when this team is as dominant as it is. All right, we're going to talk about college football. Haven't done that in a while. So Dabo Swinney of the Clemson, great head coach, right? Done a great job, but he expressed concern over players possibly resting with this new playoff format, right? The way I see it, and I could be wrong, but I don't think the ratings are going to change. Because Alabama versus the big games of the year, right? Alabama versus Auburn is... I can't even speak. Alabama versus Auburn is still going to be a big deal. I doubt the players are going to want to rest for that. Michigan State versus... Michigan versus Ohio State is still going to be a big deal. Players are probably not going to rest for that. And then the Army-Navy game, no one's resting for that either. Like, any game that involves players resting, it's not going to draw any less audience. It's still college football, still highly exciting. And then on top of the already solid ratings that they get, they're getting a March Madness-esque tournament at the end of it all. I don't see how that's possibly going to drop in ratings. You know, they just had their highest rated season last year. College football. Last year was their highest rated season. The way I see it, they're just adding excitement. Yeah, you can express concern over guys taking off. I don't think they're going to. Number one. And number two, if they do, it's going to be at less important points of the season. It's not going to be big games like the Iron Bowl or Rose Bowl. So, I think college football is good where it is right now. And they're going to maintain a high rating. All right, so Jordan Love of the Packers declined a question recently when asked about his contract extension, and I absolutely don't care at all because I don't even think he should be getting paid yet because we don't know for sure what he is. He was fantastic in the last 10 games last year, yes. But let's face it, one good year doesn't make you worthy of a contract. And in fact, it wasn't even one full good year. It was one almost half year that was good. Hey, I like Jordan Love right now. I think he's headed into good. I think he's headed in the right direction. But I am not forgetting those first 7 games of the season. I thought the Packers were screwed. The first 8-9 games of last season. I was not confident in how they looked. So as much promise as he shows, I can't sit here and say, oh, Jordan Love deserves a big contract extension. He's the franchise. He's going to change everything. Or maybe not change everything because we were already fantastic. But yeah, I mean, the Packers' schedule, it's kind of in the middle. It's not like insanely hard. There are some difficult parts of it, but it's not like, it's not easy or hard. It's somewhere in the middle. Open up with the Eagles. It's considered an away game, but it's in Brazil. I think we have a chance in that game. Because the Eagles, I think, their momentum is kind of shot after last season. And the Packers' momentum is in the right direction. Colts week 2, we should be good. Unless Anthony Richardson really takes a big jump. The Titans should be a win. The Vikings at Lambeau should be a win. Usually we split the Vikings, but there's a good chance, assuming we don't lose to the Eagles week 1, we start off 4-0. Then we go to Los Angeles against the Rams. That is what I think will be our first loss. Right? So I think the Rams can be better. I think most people see the Rams as a good team, but I think they're better than people think. The issue is they're going to be overshadowed by the Niners. So they're going to be in a wild card spot the entire time. I think the Rams are better than they're going to have the upper hand on the Seahawks and Cardinals. But I think I can see them. They got Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, good offensive line, good defense, and Sean McVay as their head coach. There's no reason, and as a matter of fact, they're not too far removed from winning a Super Bowl. They had that bad Super Bowl hangover 2 years ago, but last year they seemed to find their footing again. So I think our first loss to the Rams, that will bring us to 4-1. We get the Cardinals at home the next week. I'm going to say we lose that one in an upset. So we're down to 4-2. Then we roll into against the Texans. I'm going to say we fall to 4-3. But then we go to the Jaguars, beat them 5-3. Then we go against the Lions. I think since we're at the line, so week 9 we're going to be in Lambeau against the Lions. I'm going to say we win that in a close one, which is at 6-3 heading into the bye week. Go to the Bears. I think we're going to win that one. We still have the upper hand, even though they added some pieces and look better. Put us at 7-3. Then we face the Niners, lose that one 7-4. And this is where it gets hard, the schedule. We get the Niners, then the Dolphins, then the Lions, 3 weeks in a row. So, I think we lose to the Niners. Brings us to 7-4. We get the Dolphins in Green Bay. That'll be tough. Let's say we win that one, but then lose to the Lions the next week, putting us at 8-5. Beat the Seahawks 9-5. Beat the Saints the next week 10-5. Then we lose. I'm gonna say we lose to the Vikings week 17, and beat the Bears to end it off. That puts us at 11-6. Off of barring injuries or anything crazy happening. So, Love, he is dealing with some talented defenses. He's going to have to go toe-to-toe with great offenses like Miami, San Francisco, Detroit. He's going to have some tough... That's going to be a tough 3-week span. And if my prediction is right, because every team gets upset at least once a year, I think ours is going to come against the Cardinals. And it will be tough if we're coming off of a loss to the Cardinals going against the Texans offense the next week. So, if Love doubles down, if he has a great year this year, we can start considering an extension. But I don't see any reason to do it. Listen, he's talented. We knew that. Like, the only thing last year proved that we weren't sure of was that he looks more NFL ready than anyone possibly thought. Because after those first 3 years where he sat behind Rodgers and occasionally played, everyone thought he wasn't ready to play in the NFL. Everyone knew he was talented, but no one thought he was going to be able to play in the NFL. So what last year proved was that he was ready to play in the NFL, but is he ready to make a deep playoff run? That's the next question. And that's what will hopefully be answered this year. All right. So Steve Sarkisian of the University of Texas, their football team, so that 2024 is the most talented Texas team he's ever been a part of. Now, Texas is a big brand. They're a great addition to the SEC. But they're not going to run the SEC, I don't think. Because Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama exist. And the thing with him is, you have arguments for him to be a great coach, but also a very overrated one as well. Yeah, he got fired at USC. He only has one 10-win season. Those are all true. He's also the best offensive coordinator USC had under Pete Carroll. And he turned Washington from 0-12 into a legitimate team in 1 year. And he is one of the best recruiting coaches in the league. So, I would say he just needs to win big games a lot more as a coach. He's a great offensive mind. He's got great energy. He does a great job recruiting. But he does have to step it up in winning the bigger games. Because you can only last as a coach so long when you're only winning less important games. They might like you for a bit, but it's not going to last. All right. Let's move on to the NFL. Mahomes said that there will be no easing rookie Xavier Worthy into the offense. Listen, Xavier Worthy, he shows a lot of promise. I don't know if he's not going to be blowing up the stat line, in my opinion, because he's got Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice on the team with him, which could be good for him. Kind of take it back, take the first year, and probably work his way up through the years. But yeah, Kansas City, they're coming off a Super Bowl. They're trying to keep that momentum going, and they're trying to be the first team to ever three-peat in the NFL. So there's absolutely no reason they should be expecting him to ease into anything. All right. Another report from the NFL. Brian Daboll wanted to trade up to draft Jayden Daniels. You know why this is? Because Brian Daboll, he may not be a great coach, but he was a great offensive coordinator. He knows bad quarterback play when he sees it. Daniel Jones is not a great quarterback. Daniel Jones, I'm going to say it again. His best year is when Brian Daboll said, let's take the ball out of his hands and put it in the running backs. That was his most successful year, his most efficient year. When he only threw for 15 touchdowns. When he hardly threw the ball. Now Saquon is gone, right? He's with the Eagles now. And yeah, I don't think Jones was hiding behind anyone to begin with. But now he's definitely not hiding behind anyone because no one to hide behind. Saquon is... Saquon's gone. The Giants have no one on the offense that's going to make Daniel Jones look better than he is. So if he proves me wrong and has a good year, great. Doesn't make a difference to me. But, right now it's hard for me to believe in him when his stat line looks the way it does. And now he lost his greatest weapon. So, I don't know. Let's move on to a team I'm actually hopeful for. The 49ers. I had a thought. So, I expressed concern about this Brandon Ayuk thing because I think the noisier a team's offseason is, the worse they tend to perform. I'm realizing now, I said the same thing last year when Nick Bosa's contract was going on. And that not only happened last summer, it lasted until September. So they had quote-unquote noise going on the entire summer and still made the Super Bowl. So maybe it's not just noise, it's just the amount of noise surrounding your team. Like the Packers, the year before Rodgers left, when they only went 8-9, when they went 8-9 and, missed the playoffs, which they never did before that. I don't think it was for lack of talent because they made the playoffs this year with Jordan Love, who, although he's talented, isn't Aaron Rodgers. So the same roster they had the year before made the playoffs this year, won a playoff game, but the year before with a better quarterback didn't make the playoffs. That's because they had a crazy amount of noise going on in the offseason. We didn't know if Rodgers was coming back. Just that whole thing going on with Aaron Rodgers is what got us, I think, in that hole. It's hard for me to... I can't figure out another way to explain it because, like I said, that same roster, losing Devontae Adams had some sort of effect, but the same roster without Devontae made the playoffs and won a game last year. So it's hard for me. I don't know. I think it was the noise. But, I think the Niners just know how to control that noise. The Packers, I think, weren't... Because the Packers are used to a calm organization. They're a successful organization, but not a loud one. I feel like the Eagles are a bit of a loud organization. The Cowboys are definitely a loud organization. So I think because the Packers are so inexperienced in that area, they just didn't know how to fix it. But the Niners, they know how to handle it. So I have faith in them. I still think they're one of the 5 teams that can make or win the Super Bowl this year. So yeah, that was just a thought. Okay. Bill Belichick is apparently still very interested in making a return to coaching this season. Listen, I mean, I guess maybe a team can use him. I'm not sure. I don't know where he could be used. He's 72 years old. I mean, I don't know. Listen, he's the best defensive coach to ever. Like, he's the best defensive coach of all time. I'm not changing my opinion on that. But, like, I think he should, instead of looking for a head coaching job, look for a defensive coordinator job. You are a fantastic defensive coordinator. Like, he's not the best offensive guy, and that's why he doesn't do much without Tom Brady. He needed Tom Brady to kind of coach the offense for him, the way I see it. And I really don't know, like, what coaches are on the hot seat right now. I think Robert Saleh, if he doesn't succeed with the Jets this year, is probably on his way out. But the Jets ain't hiring Bill Belichick. Buffalo was an interesting thing I heard. I don't think Sean McDermott's getting fired anytime soon, but I think people will slowly start to realize that without a great offensive coordinator, Sean McDermott is not as good a coach as he was prior. You know, when Brian Daboll was there, McDermott looked like a genius. But now that he's not there, we're seeing McDermott is very similar to Belichick. Great defensive mind, but not the best offensive. Not the best head coach. A good spot for Belichick could be Philly because, listen, the Eagles, like I pointed this out the other day, they fired Doug Peterson 2 years after he won a Super Bowl with them. They fired Andy Reid after he won made 5 NFC championships. So Nick Sirianni, I think, yeah, he made a Super Bowl with them 2 years ago, but there's a certain benchmark with him this season, I think. Because Philly is expecting to make a run. They just added Saquon Barkley to their offense. They're looking to gain the momentum back that they lost last season. I think if Nick Sirianni wants to keep his job, he needs to get to the second round of the playoffs and win more than 10 games, at least. I think anything less will end his time in Philly. And I think they might look for Bill Belichick as a replacement. You know? And they're good because he has, I think Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback to run the offense with, while Belichick can just figure out the defense. I don't see why Belichick would want to go to a team without a great quarterback after the lack of success he's had without Brady. So going to a team with Jalen Hurts, who's a young quarterback with a lot of talent, probably be appealing to him. All right, so we're going to end the show today on one final note from the NBA. Russell Westbrook was traded to the Jazz from the Clippers and is expected to sign with Denver once he does a buyout. And listen, Westbrook, no, he's not the same guy that we saw in 2017 who won the MVP. But I said this last year, he's a great guy to have coming off the bench. like Westbrook, because it's like he's one of the best bench players in the league. And that's not disrespectful. Westbrook has the most triple-doubles of all time. He was a fantastic player in his prime. But he's out of it now. You can't be mad. You can't call it disrespectful that I'm saying he's a bench player when he's not the same guy he used to be. I mean, I think it's just common sense. You know, he played 68 games last year, averaged 11 points. Just, it's a solid bench player status, and he doesn't even have to do all that with Denver because they got Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. I think it's a good addition for them. They gotta do whatever they can to get the upper hand on that stacked West that they got going on. So, yeah. See what happens there. This was Dylan Miller on Daily Dose Dylan. Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose Dylan. Have a good day. I will see you tomorrow.